Hi, this is Joff. Today we'd like to welcome a very special guest. You know her from Miss Saigon as the original Kim. You also know her as Princess Jasmine and Mulan. The great Lea Salonga is with us today. Hi,
Hey.
Lea. Welcome back home to New York City.
Yes.
We're so honored to have you right now.
Thank you.
So tell us, one of the things that people might not know is how you landed the role of Kim for Miss Saigon. How did you land the audition for that part?
The backstory for that audition is actually kind of interesting. I mean, I was in college. I was in Ateneo de Manila. I was a biology major in university, but I was also still active as a singer in Manila. The president of the Singers Union called my mother and said there are these auditions for a brand new show in London's West End. The show was called Miss Saigon, and my mom initially had doubts about who these producers were because she was not familiar with their work. I mean, Les Mis was not commonly known in Manila, unless you were a lover of musical theater. So it really was not. It was not in our sights at the time. And however, I had friends who I was working on in a musical with, who said, "Oh yeah, you should audition with this," and so I learned on my own from Les Mis, and that was my audition piece, one of two audition pieces for the show, and auditioned at the CCP in the rehearsal room. And I remember being very nervous. So, yeah, there were 2 days of auditions. The first day was open only for professional singers, people in the industry who were active and working. And the second day was the open call, where pretty much if you, whether or not you were a member of the union or in the industry, you were open to trying out. And I think they got most of the women they eventually hired who were from the Philippines. A lot of them came from that first day. One of them came from the open call the second day. But how do you land an audition like that? Well, I don't know. I mean, an audition's not exactly landing something. And landing that part, I think it was a combination of being exactly who they wanted and what they were looking for, being the right age, being in the right place at the right time, and being prepared for the opportunity. Because, I mean, the opportunity can present itself, but if there is no preparation in anticipation of it, then you just might as well just squander the opportunity. Yeah, so I think landing the part was a combination of many things. There was fortune, there was blessing, there was preparation, there was just luck. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things.
When I was doing my research on how you started with Miss Saigon, I ran into this quote where you said it would be another chance for the Filipino to get a foot at the door and hopefully push it all the way. This was when you were coming from a successful year with Miss Saigon from London.
Right.
You win the Laurence Olivier Award.
Uh-huh.
And tell me, because there was a bit of a challenge in you coming to New York.
Yes, there was.
What was that like for you, and what was the mindset of dealing with people questioning why a part that was already yours to begin with, you are the original Kim, and it turns out that eventually they auditioned thousands of girls and no one.
They did. They actually did their due diligence, and the producers truly exhausted their resources in finding people for this production here in New York. But the producer wants who he wants to hire, and it really was his prerogative, and he wanted to get he wanted to make sure that his two original stars in the show were the same people that would open it here. With regards to Jonathan's casting, I mean, that was the first hurdle, getting Jonathan Pryce to play the engineer on Broadway, and I was the second. And he was very matter of fact, which I actually really appreciated. He called me into his office. My mother and I both went. And he says, okay, let me be straight with you. We're trying to get you to Broadway, but we don't know how that's going to go. And I think on his part, it was managing expectation. He was not saying, oh, for sure, we'll get you in. Don't even worry about it. And then, because it would be very heartbreaking if all of a sudden it was like, oops, no, not going to happen. So what I appreciated was him saying, I don't know. I don't know what your chances are. Your case is going to go into arbitration. We're doing everything that we absolutely can, but I just want you to know that we're doing everything we can for you. And I said, you've done so much for me already that all I can say right now is thank you. And if it's not meant to happen for me to go to New York with the show, then I mean, I can look at drama schools here in the UK. I could think about going back to school in Manila. I mean, there were different things that I was already thinking about as far as moving ahead and moving forward. Obviously, none of which came into fruition because I got the late night call in January of 1991, and my dad knocked on my bedroom door, and he opened the door and said, "Honey, you're going to New York." And I'm like, "Oh my God!" So it's a really amazing story, but you know, I'm very thankful for how everything turned out.
I think a great deal of your success comes with you coming to the city, which you now call, you know, pretty much your hometown.
I do, yeah. I consider it that.
Yeah. By the way, to all Fordhamites out there, we're talking to a fellow Fordham Ram out here, so yeah, just wanted to give a shout out to Fordham.
Lincoln Center campus.
Yeah, LC. So one thing that I did want to ask you too was, I follow you on Twitter.
Okay.
And it really made me laugh that you gave a shout out to all gamers out there. Enzio Auditore. Lea Salonga is a fan of Enzio.
Oh, Enzio.
How did you become a fan of
assassin ever.
Assassin's Creed? That's crazy.
I know, right? And I tell all my friends, no, you don't understand. This character is hot. I play because the character is hot. But all kidding aside, I think I heard about Assassin's Creed. My husband started playing the first one, and that's Altair, who I think is just an arrogant jackass. So I couldn't finish one. I just couldn't. I couldn't bring myself to actually even delve deeply into Assassin's Creed 1 because I'm like, okay, I cannot stand this guy. So for me, it was like, okay, no. But I really got hooked with Assassin's Creed 2 and running all over Italy and looking at all this beautiful architecture and loving being able to, you know, explore Venezia and Firenze and all of these beautiful locales in Italy and seeing what this is what Italy looked like way back then, and a lot of it is architecturally correct, and you're going through the streets and you can almost smell the stench of marketplaces and back streets, and it's just really an interesting experience. And moving on to Assassin's Creed 3 and then now 4, I like 4 a lot, and I've just started
playing.
That's
so amazing. Who would have thought? So you've been all around the world. Is there a specific place that I was watching some of your interviews? I'm not sure if by this point on you've been to like South America. I recall that you haven't been there yet.
I have, but I haven't sung there, but I have been.
Right. Is there a specific place that you would want to visit or perform that you haven't done so yet?
I don't know. I mean, as far as visiting, as in being a tourist, I'd love to see Paris. My husband tells me how wonderful it is. I mean, he went there after college graduation, so he says that, you know, I'd love to take you there someday. That would be nice. We've been to Germany, we've been to, obviously, the UK and parts of the United States and many parts of Asia. I don't know. I mean, I haven't performed in South America yet, so maybe anywhere on that continent might be fun. Because it's the one continent I've not yet sung on. Well, that in Africa. I'm not intending to visit Antarctica anytime soon. So
I hope not.
No, it's too cold. No, I don't think so. But yeah, I think that's the one continent I'd like to sing on. I think somewhere there.
Yeah. You mentioned your family. One of the things that I find most interesting is that, you have a daughter. Mm-hmm. And there was a point in time when you were a Disney princess. Actually, a couple of times.
Yeah.
What's it like to tell your kid, Princess Jasmine or Mulan is actually mommy?
The funny thing is that this child is savvy about the business to the point that she understands that there are actors behind these voices. And so she understands, like for example, the Disney Legends ceremony a couple of years ago, and my daughter is 5, and she gets that there are actors behind these voices, and she wanted the autograph of the lady that did Princess Tiana, who was also being honored that same day. And so I put the mommy hat on, and we headed over there, and I took off my heels, and we're like, Anika no Niros, my daughter wants your autograph because Tiana is her favorite princess. And so she signed her book, and she got everybody's autograph. And she's like, and then she looks up at me, because I'm the only one missing, right? Like, Mommy, I want you to sign it. And I'm like, well, thanks for the afterthought. But it's funny. I just thought it was funny. I haven't signed her book yet. But it was important that all these other people did for her.
That's so cool. Does it ruin it for her?
It doesn't ruin it for her. The experience is still the experience. But I think knowing what mommy's job is and knowing what I do, it doesn't take away anything. It doesn't take away the excitement or the thrill. I mean, it doesn't take it away for me watching as somebody who has done that kind of work and then watching a film, with that kind of work too by other people, and it's just like, it adds a different dimension because it's not just about what's happening on screen.
What's the toughest part of being a mom and a celebrity at the same time?
The toughest part for me is when I have to travel and be away from her, because she doesn't like being away from me. And I don't like being away from her either. I mean, she's one of the coolest people I know, just as a human being, and she's smart, fun to hang out with. Just has a great sense of humor, really intelligent. So she's somebody I would elect to hang out with anyway, because she's just so cool. She's a cool kid. Like 7 going on 17. Oh God, I'm not looking forward to puberty. I'm really not. But the toughest thing is just being away from her and having sometimes to miss stuff. And I'm not the only person I'm not the only performer that gets to miss certain things. I mean, I was talking to another singer, and he missed his daughter's investiture, her scouting investiture. And he's like, oh, I didn't get to be there for her for that. And I'm like, yeah, it's just one of those things that you just kind of know that you signed on for. I mean, this little person didn't sign on for it, but my husband did, and I most certainly did. But so I'm trying to reduce my travel schedule because I think she needs me more at home.
Speaking of work, I wanted to track back a little bit because I found, actually when I was younger, I would watch reruns of a show called John and Marsha.
Oh, okay.
And
that was a good one. That was fun.
And thanks to YouTube, there's actually a clip of you in that show.
Yeah, I think I was 14.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, if you had any memories that stick out, not just of the show, but also of the late greats and Dolphy and Miss Lita
Oh my
Blanca.
gosh. I remember having seen the show on television as a kid, even before I was a guest performer on it. And I do remember feeling thrilled getting asked to be there for one episode. And I mean, sitcoms back then were very benign and very G-rated compared to the stuff that goes on now. And I was like, it's Dolphy, and he's in a room, and you get intimidated because of who he is and what he's done in his career, and just his humility then strikes you, and how professional he is, and he knows what's going on, and same with Nida Blanca, and I'm like, this is somebody who's who's just iconic and incredible and wonderful and talented and professional. I heard another story about her many years later. She was working on film, and it was a reverse shot, or it was not her reverse, but another actor that she was doing a scene with was doing the reverse shot. So that other actor was off camera, and Nida was on camera. So, for example, here's the situation. There's the camera. If I'm Nida, and then there's the other actors there. Apparently, the other actor was screwing around, not taking the work seriously, making faces, and Nida did not take kindly to that, and actually took that actor aside, gave that actor a talking to that I hope I would never ever receive. And when I had heard about that, I was like, wow. I was like, yeah. Oh yeah, but apparently well deserved. But apparently that actor deserved it. Yeah. So when I hear stories like that about how a lot of the greats would take it upon themselves to give a stern talking to somebody who wasn't being a professional, I only hope that one day, if that ever happens in my presence, that I have the cojones to do the same thing, to take that person, take them aside, and give them a talking to that they will wish they never got. So, yeah. So I thought, that is just effing awesome.
At one point, you were like the lone ambassador internationally for the Philippines. Did that weigh on you at all that you were carrying that banner for us?
I try not to think about it. I try to just do my work, do it well, let that be a reflection upon me, and thus a reflection on, on the way that theater performers or performers in general from my country are like. That's pretty much it, because one person could not possibly represent an entire country, because an entire country is made up of so many different kinds of people. And it would be unfair to heap all that responsibility upon one human being. So I try not to think about it in those terms. I'm like, just do your work, do it well, and let that be it, and hope that that's enough. It's flattering to have that responsibility heaped upon you, but at the same time, it can also be like a little overwhelming and a little daunting. So I try not to think about it. I just try to just do my work, do my job, do it well, and let that be the end of that.
Right now we're at Jeepney NYC, and it's pretty surreal to have you in this very building because
why?
Nicole Ponseca, among other people around New York, has been very passionate about promoting Filipino culture and in terms of Filipino food.
Yeah.
And so, later on, we're gonna try to get her with us, and I'd like to get your take on, what it's been like to promote Filipino culture internationally.
Great.
So let's go through some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
What would be your favorite food, Filipino or otherwise?
Ooh, oh goodness. That would be difficult. I don't eat a lot of wheat anymore, which makes Filipino food all that more appealing because of the rice. So, my go-to comfort food, usually it's tuyo, fried eggs, or scrambled eggs, and garlic rice. As in, it has to be tuyo, and I will eat the heads. Yeah.
Really?
Yes. It's actually healthy. It's actually healthy to eat an animal from nose to tail. Okay. My husband was doing research on, we're both kind of paleo.
Oh, wow.
And Filipino food fits perfectly in it because of there's organ meats in a lot of dishes. You eat blood, you have face, cheek meat, and some of the most amazing, appetizing, most awesomely prepared dishes. It's like, oh yeah, nose to tail. That's not unusual for Filipino cuisine.
No, not at all.
It's not at all unusual. You eat heart and intestines and brain and gizzard and whatever, and it's no big deal.
Do you cook at all at home?
Not really. I'm not the best cook. I mean, I can follow a recipe and you know, my mom is a much more instinctual cook, and I love her adobo. She's Ilonggo, so it's a different style. So it's a drier adobo, which I like. I'm not into the one with all the sauce that you pour over the rice. My brother likes that one. I like it dry, fried up, you know, and a little bit
I think
crispy.
they call it iga, right?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love her dishes. I love her cooking, and you know, when I try to prepare something, like when I was living alone in the city, the first few times I would try to make dishes that she would prepare so that it would feel like home. So it was nice.
That's cool. So in New York, what would be some of your favorite spots to hang out or to visit?
Oh, I love the Museum of Natural History. Just because it's like, I went for the first time, my very first time, I went with my daughter. We went straight to the dinosaur exhibit. And we would just explore all of these fossils. We would explore these you know, the representations of all these animals and, you know, the plaster cast of all these dinosaurs. And it's like, this is just the most amazing thing. And I'm glad to be experiencing it with my husband and with my daughter, because she loves dinosaurs and she likes looking at that kind of stuff. And so we looked at, there was, I think, a Triceratops, there was a Stegosaurus, there was an Ankylosaurus that were all on display. And we were just looking at all these things that she was only reading about, and then she gets to see them. This is how large these and how massive these creatures were that once walked the earth many millions of years ago. So, you know, she was just, mommy, can we see this, please? Mommy, let's look up. Mom, look at that. And yeah, and so she really enjoyed that trip.
That must be fun, having an inquisitive kid, you know, around.
She's precocious.
Yeah.
It can be exhausting mentally.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think we're done. It's like having 5 kids, having her.
Who would be the top 3 people that you would want to perform for or with?
Oh, Bruno Mars is one. Love to perform with him someday. Just because his musicianship and his performance energy. Never mind that he's half Filipino, but it's just that I just think he's wonderful and truly amazing. And I have a couple of musician buddies who play music with me whenever I'm on the West Coast, and they were Grammy nominees one year, and they were talking about his performance on the Grammys, and they were like, he's the real deal. He sings, he dances, he really performs, he sings on pitch, he's for real. This guy is not manufactured in the studio. This guy's an honest to goodness, deserves all the attention he gets, musician. And so he's definitely somebody I'd love to work with. I'd love to work with Barbra Streisand someday, just because, come on. It's Barbra Streisand. So it's her. And I'd love to work with Stephen Sondheim, because if he ever creates another musical, or if he revives something, I would certainly love to be a part of that company. Just because I think he's like, it's native New Yorker. It's a very New York sensibility as far as his style of writing, and it's clever and it's intelligent and it's funny, and there's so much wit and there's so much humor in the stuff that he writes and puts together, and it's a challenge to any actor to do his stuff and do it justice. And it's only as an older adult that I'm appreciating him.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not always the most commercial stuff, but when you get it, there's just nothing like it. There's nothing like him.
So you're not opposed to doing another big production somewhere down the road?
Of course, I'm not opposed to any of that. I mean, musical theater is probably, as far as I'm concerned, as a performer, my greatest love. It's the thing that I enjoy doing the most and get the most fulfillment from. Just because it was the first thing that I ever did. It was the way that I got my career started. So I think that I will always have an affinity for musical theater, and I will always want to do it.
Speaking of wanting to do roles, which would you rather do if you could only choose one?
Okay.
Would you rather do the first Disney Filipino princess, or have a main role for if ever they were to do an Assassin's Creed movie?
Oh my God! Oh, that is hard. Like, I don't know if there would be a Filipino princess. They would have to investigate the stories and the tales and the legends, you know. But an Assassin's Creed movie would be really cool. That would be so cool. That would be so hot. I think that would just be so much fun to do. So I think I would pick that. I would pick that, and I think every gamer friend that I know would be like, "Oh my God, you're the coolest thing right now." I don't know. I just think it would just be fun. It would just be a lot of fun to do.
You're incredibly versatile. You have a running column with the Philippine Daily Inquirer.
Right.
You know, you're a world-class singer and actress, and you're very vocal as far as you know, social matters are concerned.
Right.
What do you envision for the Philippines for the next few years as far as economic development?
I think economic development can only happen in an atmosphere and in an environment of stability. And with so much that happens in the Philippines, the one thing that seems to be reliable about the country is that there is no reliability as far as what's happening and what happens in politics and what's happening in policy. I just find it interesting. I mean, last night there was, I was able to get onto the live feed of Janet Napoles in the Senate, and it has to do with a lot of the pork barrel situation. And I'm thinking to myself, so what are we hoping to get out of this? And I'm just thinking, what are we hoping to achieve as a people with putting this person there who is not answering questions and evading and you know, not, you know, just invoking the right to not incriminate herself. And it's like, so what's going to happen now? So I don't know, and you know, a lot of my friends have many different observations with regards to that, and I think the only way that a country will be will develop economically is if it is politically stable. And by that I mean the policymakers being trustworthy, lawmakers being trustworthy, the president being trustworthy, and it cannot just be one man who is seen as honest. Everybody needs to be looked upon with that, in that same light. But it's difficult when you look at those who are supposedly looking out for the welfare of 100 million Filipinos, and when things start to come into light that, you know, that these policymakers are there for their personal gain, it just makes me as a Filipino feel very skeptical and jaded and hopeless. And I don't like feeling hopeless, especially where my country is concerned. You know, it's like, and I actually posted it on Twitter last night. I'm like, I've lost my hope. Because somebody help me find it. So it's sad to think that way and to watch something on television that seems to be important and feel change is not going to come. What's the point? And it's a sad thing. I don't like thinking like that. I don't like being in a position where, you know, I feel like I have to say that, you know, because I'd like to possess an iota of optimism. Unfortunately, I don't right now, which is kind of sad.
You know, yeah, there's a lot of challenges, not just, you know, economically, but even socially. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that we're not seeing perfectly or we're not
No.
understanding correctly. One of those would be people's stance on the RH bill.
Yeah, it's a very divisive issue. There are people really on both sides, and I'm very vocal about which side I'm on.
Right.
So I'm in pro reproductive health. I mean, I want for there to. I know that the measure and the law that was passed, I know that it's not perfect.
Yeah.
However, instead of people just saying, no, we should strike this down, it's like, wait, no. We need to create a measure. The country needs, you as lawmakers need to create a measure whereby you are educating your constituents about their rights to reproductive health.
Yeah.
And it isn't just about, the thing is, a lot of people have been wrongly placing contraception under the microscope when you should look at it as a whole and think of the education, think of maternal health, think of reproductive health is for men and women. I mean, there should be prostate health as well, and looking into cancers and looking into breast cancer, ovarian cancer, cervical cancer, looking into delivering healthy children, staying healthy as a mother, delivering your children, and reducing infant and maternal mortality. It's all of those things, and to focus on one small part of the bill is unfair to the legislators who worked very hard to create this entire bill that looks at so many different issues as part of a reproductive health bill as the greater issue of it. It's like, no, it's because it's the Bible said so. It's like, wait, no. In this case, we have to think about secular society. The Philippines is composed of not just Catholic people. It's many shades of Christian. It's Muslim. It's atheist. It's Buddhist. It's all of these different faiths, and we have to create legislation that fits everybody.
Yeah, it's almost as
Yeah.
if we're lacking, not just literacy and education, but do you think we're also too attached with, outdated conservatism?
There is conservatism actually that works and that still applies, and it's, there are certain things I'm quite conservative about, but there are also things that I'm more liberal about. And I mean, for me, keeping people in the dark as far as education, keeping people ignorant of what their options are, it's like that should be against the law. Because I mean, people need to know what their rights are and then make an informed decision. After knowing the facts, after knowing what your options are, as opposed to saying, no, you're Catholic, you cannot. Or I'm Catholic, therefore you cannot. It's closed-minded, and it's prejudiced, and it's frustrating to look upon what's happening and thinking, oh my God, really? This is still happening? We're ending 2013 and this is still happening? Right. It's like, this is not the Spanish Inquisition now, and it's crazy.
Do you think
crazy.
Do you think you'd ever have the fortitude to withstand the challenges of politics back home?
Well, the thing is, there are actually politicians who have the will and who truly have the country's welfare at heart. There are people like that. And then there are people who used their PDAF funds for the good of their constituency, for the good of their people in their districts, in their areas, in their provinces. There are actually people who have made good on the promises that they made to the people they serve. So there's that. So I'd like to think that because there are such people who are present, that there is some iota of hope. But their presence is currently overshadowed by news of those who are not there to serve. It's sad, and it makes me angry
Well, I'd like to give you an opportunity to generate that hope now as we wrap up.
Okay.
You know, you've been, you know, such a great ambassador for our nation, and I wanted to thank you for that. And for all the young kids out there, the young aspiring Lea Salongas, what advice would you give them, you know, in if they want to follow you in your footsteps, or you know, whatever dreams that they may have?
Oh my goodness, for whatever dreams you may have, one, education. I mean, if your folks have the means to send you to college, please go. And it's not always to gain knowledge that you can cull from books. It's the experience of going and creating friendships that will last you forever. It's the experience of it's just the experience of going and having, you know, and meeting many of your peers, meeting like-minded people. I mean, I made some really good friends in college when I went, and people that I'm still in touch with. And I mean, I made great friends in high school, but I made some really amazing friends in college. And it's an experience that I took with me when I went to London, and these were the same people that kept me sane while I was over there. And yeah, it's go to school and expand your mind and experience life. It's something that as an actor has been extremely helpful, is to live life and live it well and live it fully, and not, and I mean, obviously there are things that you should not do in this life, but if there are things to experience and to taste and to put yourself through, I mean, do it, because I mean, life is so short. It is meant to be lived well.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
To everyone, thank you for watching. Ms. Lea, thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us today. And yeah, see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.